Elon Musk said that hydrogen is a wasted future. It's not even worth doing because it takes too much. So what did ME Power do? They invested in hydrogen.
This is United A-Holes, a video cast discussing cultural topics with no filter.
Welcome back to Area 41, Gaetan Thomas's favorite spot on the internet.
That was my guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, right?
Did you say Gaetan Thomas?
Yeah,
I've never heard that name.
he's the CEO of ME Power.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Gaetan. Oh, I thought you were like
Well, you said you read
Gaetan
the
Thomas. What kind of a nickname is that?
I don't remember that.
I didn't realize you're so
Dude
kicking a
likes-
claw, man.
Dude likes tanning beds and he's a homosexual. What do you call him? Gaetan.
Gaetan Thomas.
Apparently, we're going to fuel those beds with hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
Yeah.
Hydrogen tanning bed.
So, I kind of wanted to bring this one around to the group to talk about because I figured it's pretty interesting. We've so far spent, I think, $13 million of our taxpayers' money
Yeah.
investing in a Florida-based company called JOI or Joy Technologies,
Yeah.
or Joy Scientific, sorry.
Jerk off instructions.
Maybe. This company says that they figured out a way to turn seawater into hydrogen energy for less energy than it takes to generate the hydrogen from it. Thoughts?
First off, who gave them permission to do this? They're a corp. They're
Board of
they're-
directors. That's all they need, man.
They're a government. We fund them.
Yeah.
They're a
Well, I mean, they,
power producer,
Crown
not
Corporation, I think is what they call
yeah,
it.
Crown Corporation.
They still have autonomy.
yeah.
Yeah,
thought-
they don't call the taxpayers up and say, "Hey, can we do this today?"
But where did that money come from? Because I
I'm not saying
remember
the
reading
taxpayers,
something,
but the
it's
government.
saying where those funds were being taken from, and it was for like a research fund that they can spend, right? Like,
Yeah, I do believe it did come out of a research fund that they can.
yeah.
But that still came out of the taxpayers' dollars.
Or your power bill. But yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like the
Yeah.
well, yeah.
I mean, the continuous increases they give us to pay on the electricity that we're using goes to fund the company further. Now, they're not making money
Well, there's
because they've had enough. What's the term they use in the States to describe boondoggles? That's it. They've had enough boondoggles over the last 10 years to just,
They give out the financials every single year.
Yeah,
They're
and they-
always ahead.
well, on generating the electricity to that point. But if you take Colson Cove and the.
Oh, they're fuck ups.
Yeah, the fuck ups.
Oh, the boondoggles.
Yeah.
So,
Boondoggle.
Wait, have you never heard that word before?
Boondoggle?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that's
I've heard
Okay.
of like boondoggle keychains.
I've heard.
It's a really good term. If you look up boondoggle and wind power or boondoggle and trains, specifically in the U.S., you'll find all kinds about it because it tends to be a favorite of the Koch brothers or Koch brother now that's left alive to basically put out campaigns smearing the high-speed train, high-speed rail, and wind power because they don't want any of that because it affects their fossil fuel industry.
Yeah.
So,
Anyhow.
do we not want NB Power to research other means of generating energy? Like,
Yeah, I'm waiting for the problem. I guess.
yeah, like
Okay.
when I initially heard that, to me it was like, oh, that's cool.
Okay, well, here's the problem. You cannot. How does that term go? You cannot get more energy out than what you put in.
That's
When-
the whole point of fusion.
Right. So, but we can't do that. That's the point.
With hydrogen.
Well,
What's that?
with hydrogen, sure. But isn't that what every nuclear reactor is doing?
Yes.
Okay. So now they're saying they found a way to do it with salt water instead of plutonium.
Supposedly.
It's
Okay.
Well,
it's
it's
extracting the
Yeah.
oxygen and the hydrogen from the seawater
and separating them. So
and separating
so you
them,
get-
and then you
So
And
in traditional format,
and they're
the only,
using
the only way we've ever done that is electrolysis. Currently,
and it takes more
electricity,
to do that
yeah.
than what you get out of it
Right.
for energy.
Which is
So,
why we haven't been doing it for years.
however,
exactly.
Because some people are
Right.
fucking hair.
so
But Joy from Florida says they can't.
right.
Right, but they're also guarding that very closely because they're
Yes,
saying
they
they
are.
can't. They don't want anyone else to get that. We figured it out. And apparently there have been scientists that have looked at it. And this is where I started to get angry. There were people that went, I looked at it. Yeah, they're not breaking any laws of physics. Well, if they're not breaking any laws of physics and you can't get more energy than what you put in.
You can't create or destroy energy.
Yeah.
You can only change it.
There's varying,
Right.
There's people that have been there and looked at it and went, I don't know. It's interesting what they're doing. That I'm looking at those comments from people outside of the people that invested and myself that are saying, yeah, it's interesting
Smoke
what
and
they're doing.
mirrors.
But nobody came out of that unless they signed some sort of a non-disclosure to be all calm and cool and collective. None of the comments that I saw from professors or anybody else went, this is groundbreaking stuff. Like nobody was really excited, and that makes me go, we spent 13 million on this, and people that know how this shit works are going, yeah, it's interesting.
13 million isn't a lot in the research and development sector.
No, but it is in the eyes of somebody who pays a power bill every month.
True.
And they asked for an increase this year, and you go, they put $13 million into an unproven technology thus far. It hasn't been proven.
They don't have a good
That's what
track
research is
record
for.
either.
But
I know,
technology
with
at
these
some point
projects.
is all, like technology will always be unproven at some point.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is, if they pull this off, they now have the rights. Is this how it works?
Licensing.
They will have
license
licensing.
specifically to electrical generation for large scale. So basically, like
that's what
generating
we-
power.
that's-
Well, considering we have a
That's what-
coastline.
that's what
could
we've
be
paid for.
beneficial. Yeah.
Is the right to
So say
they should be
say it
making
works,
shitloads of money.
and then Saudi Arabia
works.
wants to use it for one of their coastal cities. They have to license the technology through MB Power. We get the licensing rights, so we get so much
So,
for every kilowatt.
If this works,
Oh,
that could be $1 billion industry.
right. My question at the
$13
end of the
million
day,
is
let's skip forward and go, great, we spent 13 million, we're going to generate billions, that's fantastic. Is the little guys sitting here, are we going to see a decrease in our power bill?
Never.
Right. So why in the hell do I give a fuck?
Because it's cleaner and it's better for the environment. It's better, if we are going to take, climate change seriously, then we're going to have to take some major steps as a society. And this is one of them.
That's a good point. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So I'm going to level with you guys, and this kind of probably Josh and I talked off camera earlier, and he said he was mad because I flipped my decision. I was in the same boat as you when I read about this, and I've known about it for months. Back in February when it was first announced, I dug in and started reading, and I was like, "This is a friggin' waste of money. It's another fuck up." Boondoggle. But then our lovely CEO of MB Power slipped in an article that was published in the States that I dug and dug and dug and finally found and said one sentence that led me down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
And it was, they're using nanopulse technology. And I went, okay,
What the hell is that?
what does nanopulse mean? So nanopulse basically is an on-off square wave signal, but nano implies that the frequency of the on-off is faster than anything we've done in the past. So what changes happened in nanopulse technology over the last few years that would generate this interest? And we just broke the 30 megahertz spectrum in nanopulse technology. So we can turn a beam on and off at that frequency and slightly above. So I was like, what's the relevance to this and this? So the next stage led me to looking up, as we know, the wine glass and the vocalist test. Everything has a natural harmonic frequency.
Right. Yes.
NaCl, salt, has a natural harmonic frequency of 35 megahertz. If you could generate an amplitude strong enough to hit the harmonic resonance of sodium, it would deconstruct itself, creating an electronic pulse, because it's crystal, which then generates the electricity required to separate the hydrogen and oxygen out of the seawater, leaving you with basically
Hydrogen, which is what we want to burn, or
Right.
what we want to.
Actually, it sounds to me what they want to do is reconstitute it back into water, not even burn it. They're basically going to do the reverse to get the electricity out of it. So you break it
Yeah.
and put it back together, and that generates electricity. The hydrogen fuel cell that they
And
use.
it creates more than what it takes to.
Because the pulse width modulation required to, if this is the technology that we're researching, the pulse width modulation to disrupt the salt the sodium in the water, would take less energy than electrolysis to do the same job.
Okay.
So basically you're disrupting the sodium molecule to create the electrolysis, to create the hydrogen, to reconstitute with oxygen to make water, which generates electricity. At that point, my mind changed. They could be onto something because there was a new technology discovered creating nanopulse waves. See where I'm coming from? That was the slip that probably shouldn't have happened. And the CEO of MB Power, this is the part that led me down that path because I wanted to see what the relationship was between Travers Kennedy, is the CEO of JOI, and he used to be I don't know their CEO or what his term was, of Citrix. So he's a Silicon Valley guy. He's a tech guy. So it's not like he came from a shifty background. That was the first thing. You always look at like, who's running this company? Are they just a bunch of investment bankers that are trying to cash out and get some money out of something that's dead? Because that's a common practice, right? They buy an intellectual property that didn't work and then sell it to other people.
Snake oil, basically. Yeah.
But no, that's not the deal.
Which is what I was afraid of because I knew that if the 13 million was wasted, they're going to get their increase and we're going to put that 13 million back in for them to put into something else.
So Travers Kennedy seems like a legit dude. The part that bothered me in the article was that Mr. Thomas from NB Power is on the board of directors.
Of Joey Industries?
Of JOI Scientific.
Isn't that a bit of a conflict of interest? Yeah.
He's not a paid member, according to this document.
Their version of paid and mine are
the argument
Not paid in money.
the argument for him being on it was the fact that his company invested so much money that he needs to be on the board of directors to keep an eye on their investment.
I agree with that.
So we can sit here again. You got to look at both sides of the argument. So at that point, I went, okay, I'm still not seeing the negatives here. If the technology works,
That's the big if.
So then I went and started reading about this stuff, and it is so new that no one even knows. Like we've figured out how to do it, utilizing basically lasers. Essentially, lasers the only thing you can turn on and off fast enough to do that. So it has to be able to do that. The switching mechanism is something beyond anything I can comprehend because I'm not a scientist.
There's also there's also that material they've created as well.
Yeah.
That where the salt doesn't eat away at it, but you can create those chemical reactions to do that.
Yeah. So anyway, there's 2 or 3 ways that this could be working, or a combination of them. So
and it runs on solar power.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yes.
There could be your
Now, see, I did not
your
know that.
key. Yeah.
That's it right there.
So I always had the idea, I mean, they always talked about hydrogen being impractical, but wind blows really well out in the middle of the ocean. So why don't they take something similar to an oil rig, plunk it full of friggin'
and
windmills,
do their generation rate
and do that, use that electricity out there where it's always blowing to basically use the hydrogen as the capacitance. It's a bad ratio. I mean, you put 5 watts in, you get 2 watts out kind of thing. But at the same time, it would make more sense if you had to transport it a long ways anyway to convert electricity to hydrogen. That was always kind of my thought. And then you could reconstitute it or burn it or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, burning it's not very common. Even the hydrogen fuel cell cars work on the reverse process, right? Where they reconstitute it back to water.
Okay.
And that's why the water comes out the tailpipe. They're not actually lighting anything on fire. They're just allowing it to merge
They're
back
creating electricity.
from making water, basically.
So this whole process that nobody knows anything about, as soon as somebody finds something that might even possibly sound, the word will just sound dangerous. That's what you're going to hear on the news.
Because hydrogen bombs.
Anybody the
It's
age
the
of
stigma.
70 or older is going to go, we shouldn't be doing this.
Nanopulses and hydrogen.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
What is this, Mars?
We're going to blow New Brunswick right off the map,
Great.
boys.
Now we're gonna get nano cancer.
We're going to get nano cancer. Good one. Yeah, exactly. And whoever the current government is in is going to be the one to blame for it. The conservatives or the liberals, whoever it is, or maybe the Green Party. I don't know.
Yeah. So what do you think?
It all sounds really, really well, and it could just work. But there's that little thing in my head that's saying somehow, some way, either NB Power, the government, is going to fuck this up and fuck us out of all the money that it generates
Yeah, if you're looking at this
And
from
we're
a
not-
financial perspective, you're
and
always going to
we're gonna-
lose.
And
Right? You're the
we're gonna get
consumer.
fucked.
You're always going to lose.
So where it was like, oh, we thought we were going to have the licensing, but now we don't.
Or they
And we don't have our $13 million either.
Yeah.
It works. No, but we just
But what's the alternative?
don't have anything.
What company makes money by being the last one to adopt?
Yeah.
Well, here's the
And,
motivation.
and that's the thing is you do need to take chances. And I realized that as I was getting sort of angry reading some of the stuff that, and it's like, we can't, just like you said, we need to move forward. We need to
Yeah.
find something else that
I'm
works.
not disagreeing with you. I
Because-
just think they are going to just fuck it up
Well,
we,
because of
That's
incompetence.
commentary on the business and the people.
Because they don't have a
not
great track
on
record.
this decision.
When you spend $850 million or whatever down for Chile and then recoup on it.
737 million on redoing Colson Cove to burn ore emulsion because of a deal they made with,
and then lost the
and then lost the deal with that country,
Yeah.
and then they sued them. They got half their money back, but then they spent that and then some again to switch Colson Cove back to coal fired.
For the last reset.
So was
they
it a
went
wash? They get back to zero?
$1 billion over budget.
Zero, and then itself again underneath. Yeah, then we talk about LaPro and it
Yeah.
$1 billion refurb that ran 3 years late, which wasn't supposed to be $1 billion, supposed to be 300 million. So I mean, and the incompetence was all over that one. I mean, we all read the article or saw the news where they dropped the turbines in the bay in St. John. They're still there, I think. I don't know if they ever resurfaced them or not because they bought new ones. You couldn't use those.
Yeah.
So, you drop $250 million pieces of equipment in the water by mistake. Like, I don't even understand. But anyhow,
It begs the question.
I did not think that turned so sharp.
What do you mean cut the wheel right now? Just do it.
so the only other thing I think that we didn't uncover as we were talking about this is the reason why they started looking for anything to do at all. And that's because the power plant they're going to retrofit into this in Beldoon has to be retired in 2025, 2030, something like that.
2030, I think it was.
2030. I can't remember what year
But
it was.
they can get an extension, I think.
Potentially other
And
provinces
maybe
have-
2030 was the extension. I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly all the
But anyway,
numbers.
that power plant has to be stopped at that point because of the.
And so, sorry, why does that mean that? Oh, so they're looking to replace that.
that
Right,
power
okay.
plant needs.
The federal government has mandated that certain things need to be gone by a certain time, and that's one of them because it's still coal fired.
It's coal fired, and it's not even a retrofitted coal
I mean,
fire.
come on, we're still burning coal.
Does it not blow your mind that we're burning coal to
Make
generate?
New Brunswick great again.
Yeah. We're burning coal to generate electricity here, yet we sell off 50% of what comes out of LaPro to Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not understand.
I mean, I know it's probably at a profit, but I don't understand the business mindset there.
Yeah. And I guess if we looked at the numbers, we probably would, but I do not understand why we are not using more solar and more wind. Because it's being done. It's
Solar
not.
is
That's
getting more
it's-
efficient all the time.
Right. It's already been proven.
Germany's there.
If I were
But
in
we
my
do not
20s,
have a great solar footprint. New Brunswick does not have a great solar
No,
footprint.
no.
So solar is not as good here as it is in Germany
yeah,
because of the strength of the solar beams.
yeah.
Wind, on the other hand, although
Well,
I
that's-
hear wind is an expensive piece of equipment because they break down a lot. But it can still be done.
Yeah, and as you, this would be my, I guess, response to that is, as you start using a technology, typically what happens over time is you get better at it.
Yeah.
And you reduce the cost because, well, now instead of using this part that's this big, we can do it this big, and this one lasts longer because it's made out of this material as opposed to that. Well, you keep moving forward, and then you get to the point where you go, we're doing this for pennies, where we were doing it for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. That's
But-
where solar is right now. It's
Yeah.
getting cheaper and more efficient.
Yeah. If I were in my 20s and building a house today, I would simply it would be solar.
Yeah.
That would be where I would go. I would put the money into it. I would be like, yeah, it's going to cost more money up front, but I'm going to make it work.
It'd be
And
so worth it.
It would be, and your in-ground heating for your it is as efficient as possible, but still maintain my high-speed internet connection.
It's all about the internet.
You gotta get all those Jeep pics somehow.
That's right. That's
All right,
right.
let's round table it. Good idea, bad idea. Should they be in it?
I really hope it works for them. That's where I'm sitting right now. I don't know enough about it because it's not, like you said, you dug to a point where you went, I don't know how this works.
Right.
You went as far as you could. So I'm just like, I really hope this works out. That's,
John?
It's a gamble, but I'm kind of willing to accept that there will potentially be failure. But I would say it's a good thing. I'm glad that there's, new technology being researched. And
I'm kind of with Josh here. It is a bit of a gamble, but what new technology isn't a gamble? And if it works, hey, bully for us.
I'm highly disappointed in this topic. I thought you were going to come in here with some sort of scandal that you uncovered, and it's just, we spent $13 million on new tech. Yeah, of course we fucking did.
I was
spending $13 million on more coal.
I was fully in on the fact that I thought it was a scandal and we were just leeching money out of the province, sending it to this company, and Mr. Thomas was on the board of directors. And
the concept was hard to believe.
but the minute that he slipped and said nanopulse, that was my first derivative off of my whole, I'm going to attack this and tear it down because I think it's just bleeding money out of us.
so that's his big reveal.
Kendall, what's your thought? Good, bad?
Ugly?
The fuck is solar power?